Alright, hey there guys, it's the Master of Disaster, your man Comet Smasher, and I decided that I wanted to do the review for Source of Madness live, specifically because of the fact that, given that it is a roguelike, it would honestly just take way too much effort to be able to try and record any of my gaming sessions when it would mostly be endless hours of me just dying. Go ahead and grab my profile here. So, thank you guys for coming to the show. Any returning viewers, thank you so much for coming back. Any newcomers that come into the stream, welcome. And if you happen to like any of what you see here, just remember to give a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below for the algorithm. And Geomancer, Boulder Ring. So the interesting thing about this is when you die, you get a selection of other characters that you can play as with various starting stats and advantages over one another, rather than just being the same character every single time, which is kind of cool. Now, the only three classes that I have access to right now are the Geomancer, Pyromancer, and the Generalist. There are... Well, I'll just go ahead and pick a class and show you. We'll start with this Geomancer here, Evelina Burwer. I don't know about Souls-like. I mean, some people like to say that, but it's... I mean, these Metroidvanias, some of the newer ones have some Souls-like elements to them, but this is more like a twin-stick shooter Metroidvania. And it's got, like, loot mechanics and stuff. You know, you can pick up loot and sell it. It's kind of an interesting idea. Now, here we have two sets of skill trees. The skill trees are actually permanent, so as you rank up the skill trees, you get more stuff. The class skill tree over here essentially just unlocks extra gear for you that will drop in-world. And we have Generalist, Pyromancer, Bloodmancer, Geomancer, Cryomancer, and Stormcaller. There's different trees of various things here. Over on the other side, this particular skill tree is related to permanent aspects of the character. You have extra healing at checkpoints, which is a little bit misleading. It's not that the checkpoints heal you, but that it refills your flask. You got buffs here to get more resources dropped from enemies. This part of the tree actually increases drop rates, damage, and tier level, which is the power level of items. So one of the interesting things about this game is the color of the name of the ring or other items indicates rarity, something similar to Diablo, Borderlands, etc. Games like that. The legendary quality items are the ones with orangey gold colored letters, and they usually also have bonus effects attached to them, besides the typical effects that you see here. Now, as far as the story for the game... I sound like fighting cowboy. Yeah. I'm not sure if I'd go that far, but... Now, as far as the story for the game goes, it's a little bit weird. You play as a cultist of some kind of Cthulhu or something or other worshipping cult. You know, worshipping Lovecraftian elder gods. There's various people around here that you can talk to. It's cool and everything, but a little bit difficult to understand. Some of the people that you talk to, they just say like 2 words, and then you have this weird hallucination. I guess your character originally, like, came from some underground shelter area when their village was destroyed, and everybody was freaking out, and somehow, like, you're the only survivor or something. It's a little weird. The art design of this game is amazing, but it also tends to get in its own way sometimes. It's not necessarily the easiest to actually be able to get around on areas that have stairs. And sometimes the stairs, you can't really tell if they're part of the environment or actually traversable. I'm not entirely sure what the end game of this is actually supposed to be, because I haven't beaten this game yet, but I'm giving my review based on both initial impressions and just the amount of time that I've spent getting my ass kicked. But I have fought a few of the bosses in-game, and, you know, go out, kill giant monsters, figure out some profound secret. But with, you know, Lovecraftian, horrifying, cosmic evil. Now, this room is interesting. This is essentially like a preparations room here. These 2 altars over here you actually have to unlock with the skill tree that I showed you guys earlier. This one will give you an extra magic ring that you can use to swap out for your other ones. The magic rings are actually what you use for your attacks. So the rings that you have equipped influence the spells that you cast with your L2 and your R2, which are your attacking buttons. The gemstone summons some kind of pillar construct, and the bamboo burst you can use to summon a ring of bamboo spikes and then blast them outward. Each of the classes that you have actually has specialized abilities as well. For example, the Geomancer, whom I'm starting as here, has this rock shield that's influenced in some way by your max health. Now, the shield can be destroyed. I'm not entirely sure how quickly it comes back, or at all. Usually the abilities are tied to your dash, which is kind of cool, but sometimes more or less useful than any other classes. I had this altar here that you can get the extra ring from. Arcane Missile 2. And this is the Schifferobe. Weird name, I know. It gives you a helmet, or in this case a hood, or robe, that will power up your basic defenses. And the rarity of these items is kind of random, but you can upgrade the rarity of the starting items that you get with those skill trees as well. Also in this preparations room, you can check out the Book of the Dead and see just how many times you've died. Yeah. And it tells you the names of all the characters that you've died as well. It also has some element of the story here. I guess there's 3 chapters. I haven't even gotten through the first one. And finally, we have difficulty settings. I actually did try playing the game on the higher Nightmare difficulty at first, and it's actually not as bad as you might think. It's just the amount of persistent effort to get through enemies that just deal that much more damage. It's a bit taxing. Now here we exit through the gate into the Loam Land. Where you actually play the game. As I said before, side-scroll... Oh, there's an enemy right next to me. Yeah, like I said, the artwork sometimes tends to get in its own way. Here we have the map zoomed out almost entirely, and I can't really see anything. It's a spectacle, but yeah. Probably could use some work there. Like I said before, some of the things you can interact with, you get a couple of words, and then you just get this crazy, trippy hallucination. I actually still don't know what those are for. Now, as far as the combat goes, it's pretty straightforward. You have these weird ragdoll enemies that have, you know, various different body parts of different animals all mashed together, exactly like you would expect from Lovecraftian horror. They move around, they flail their bodies, they shoot bullet projectiles at you, and you just have to do your best to dodge them or tank them. Like this. And I failed. You can shoot your spells quickly, although it's not quite as useful. Or you can just charge them, which is honestly the better way to go. Some spells don't have a charged mechanic because they recharge really quickly, and you instead just fire them rapidly in a continuous cycle. Oh, there's a chest up there. So the dodge mechanic can... Oh, hold on. The dodge mechanic can actually be used for traversal as well. And it can be upgraded just like all the rest of your abilities. With the higher level dodge, you can get higher up and find hidden treasure. You see there, I just picked up a higher rarity version of Bamboo Burst. So I can swap this out. And this one, being a higher rarity, also has sub-effects. In this case, a boost to life and damage as well. Which is immensely useful. You guys having trouble reaching me? So as I mentioned before, in stark contrast to most typical Metroidvanias, this game is actually a roguelike. Which, of course, just means that when you die, it's permadeath. You go back to the beginning of the game. Now, the interesting benefit to this game is, yes, you go back to the beginning, but you don't lose the progress on those skill trees at the beginning. And if I remember correctly, I believe the game Hades was also roughly similar. Another game that I've actually been meaning to play, but I just keep forgetting. Now, you actually aim with both sticks here. It's not necessarily as useful as you might think, because you still only aim in one direction. But it kind of helps when you're trying to move and aim the opposite way while you're running away. Or repositioning. I love that this boat just straight up falls before I even did anything. There's lots of little secret nooks and crannies on the map that you can explore to find treasure. Now, another thing that makes this game different from a lot of other Metroidvanias is the fact that the maps and enemy placement are procedurally generated, similar to Diablo, but in a side-scrolling format. This means that nothing is ever where you expect it to be because of the fact that it's never really the same thing every single time. I'll go ahead and swap out Gem Ring for the Poison Rod Ring. Look for treasure, nothing there. Oh no! Traversal mechanics work fine in and of themselves. You start out with double jump, you don't have to upgrade it from anything, and you get dash right at the beginning of the game, so that's not a problem either. They really want to make sure that you have your mobility right out of the gates, just because of the way that this game needs to be played. I love that I can just stand on top of turrets and not take damage. Now, another cool thing about the procedurally generated aspect of the maps is being able to find portals that lead to secret rooms that either have boss encounters or enemy mob encounters with extra loot at the end of it. And as you saw before with the door back there, sometimes just areas that have treasure without any real challenge in it. Unfortunately, there are bullet hell mechanics in this game. But again, because of the amount of the amount of traversal options that you have at your disposal, they're not really as much trouble as you might think. It's mostly more annoying than anything else. But again, I can literally just do this. And for some reason, none of the enemies seem to know how to respond to you standing on their back. That poison spell is really useful. I see your bits sticking through the floor there. Hey, get back here. Now, I'm not entirely sure why the enemies are designed the way they are, with the whole flailing ragdoll effect being the norm. On the one hand, it kind of makes sense for the whole Lovecraftian element of monsters made up of claws, eyeballs, and tentacles. But on the other hand, it is still a little bit bizarre. Just seeing them kind of passively moving around and flailing all over the place. Kind of funny, too. And it makes for some absolutely ridiculous moments with the bigger enemies on the map, which you will see when I get to the end of this area. This township area is actually pretty short compared to the rest of the levels that I've experienced thus far. Now, the point of combat for the characters is because you need to collect the blood of monsters and use it like a resource. The blood can be used at that skill tree room that I was at earlier to get new upgrades. You can also collect an upgrade called Even Star, which is the blue orb on the left side of the screen here above all of your abilities. And the other resource you can get is gold for dealing with these cool merchant guys. I am not using... I'm going to swap out the Poison Rot Ring for Arcane Missile 1. Because it has the life boost. You can sell items to the merchants, and then use the gold that you get to buy other things. These items that take up 2 slots usually go over here in the device slots. They're basically just extra abilities that you don't have to hold down the button for. These slots over here are accessory slots for these smaller 1-slot items, like the small pearl here. Physical and nature damage, fire and lightning damage. The only thing I'm going to buy here is the small pearl too. You can have 3 accessories as well as 2 devices. And there are other hoods too that change your defensive rating and special resistances. The more powerful items are usually sold by this guy. But they're also more expensive, as you would expect. Oh damn, I have no money. Alright. Now the merchants are normally found at the halfway point through the level, as well as being close to bosses. Oh, come on. There we go. Alright, let's see what's up here. We got a secret door. What kind of treasure can we get here? We've got a mob fight here. You use your potion with the square button. It is not an instant heal though. It does take time to actually heal you. So something to keep in mind for anybody that wants to play this game. The healing is not instantaneous. Oh dear. As I mentioned before, the Geomancer gets the rock shield there, which does appear to have taken damage. I'm not sure if it has any kind of healing mechanic for itself, or you just get another one after you wait for a cooldown period. Coming up on a boss real quick here. I'm gonna go this way first. No idea what I just picked up. Something you'll get used to if you play this game is just picking stuff up as quickly as possible to avoid dying. Hey, where's the boss? I can hear it. Oh, you guys are gonna make me look stupid, aren't you? Oh, there it is. Gigantic snake, crab, monster. Now, once you have a grasp on what you're doing, it's not necessarily all that difficult to be able to chew through some of the early game bosses. But that's pretty much the only bone that the game is going to throw you, because at this point it gets a lot harder, even on normal mode. In between levels, you get this cool checkpoint here. It refills your potions based on how high that meter is when you find it. But right now I believe I have 2 uses of the potion. The max is 3. So this should refill both uses, but now it's empty. You have the option to save and exit, but it will not bring you back to the skill tree area. The only way to go back and actually get more levels and stuff is to die. This is not an option for being able to go to the actual safe room hub area. This is just for when you have to turn the game off, and, well, that's pretty much it. For anybody wondering, yeah, the boxes don't usually have stuff in them. Wasted Zelda mechanics? Yes. Yes, indeed. This is pretty much the entire loop of the game, really. Run through big dungeon, shoot enemies with spells, hope that they drop loot. And then when you die, you do it all over again. Until you eventually get to the end of the game. Maybe. Or you go mad and rage quit. All depends on the person, I guess. Shut up, boss, I was talking. I can't remember if I said it before, but the bosses, or in this case mini-bosses really, enemies with blue health bars, are the ones that actually drop the even star resource, which you need for the more powerful upgrades on the permanent character buff side of the skill tree room. So it's worth praying that as many of them show up as possible in each area, because you only get one at a time from each mini-boss. The sound quality in this game is actually amazing. Both the soundtrack, background music for the game, as well as the sound quality for the actual attacks, and accompanying sounds for the animations. That thunderous boom when you release a charged spell is so satisfying. So the enemies in each area aren't entirely unique to each given area of the game, but there are a few enemies. Yeah, the enemies do kind of blend in with the environment sometimes. And I wonder if that was done on purpose to make for more tense encounters when they just kind of come out of nowhere. That is a good point to make. They do kind of blend in. Again, an example of either the artwork getting in its own way, or just, hey guys, pay attention. As I was saying, the enemy models aren't entirely unique to each area, but there are some enemies that typically only show up in one area. Those spike crawler guys that kind of look like evil hedgehogs, I believe are unique to only this area. There's also these weird snail tentacle rock monsters. Oh, another thing important to keep in mind about the combat of this game. All of your attacks have an initial range and an initial startup. So if you notice here, the ring of bamboo spikes and the location of the magic missile orb are a little bit in front of the character, which means enemies that are inside that radius, if I was using a different spell, enemies inside of that radius and away from the origin of the spell will not get hit by it. So something to keep in mind, that the range of your spells actually does matter. The spikes will not instantly kill you, but they deal a ton of damage. Ow. Yeah, I did not do that on purpose. Thankfully, no fall damage in this game. I'm going to die. Ow, damn hedgehogs. So aside from enemies having bullet hell mechanics to deal with, the melee type enemies can actually only damage you with the parts of their bodies associated with damage. So you don't actually have to worry about, like in past Metroidvania games, just touching an enemy causing you to take damage, which I'm very thankful for, because that shit was annoying. It also means that the enemies that don't have bullet type attacks are pretty much useless as soon as you jump on their back. Most of the time. Again, the hedgehogs are protected on their backs. Oh god, I'm gonna die. Oh, I'm alive. Look at that. I was already up over this way. Exploration can be a little bit confusing because of how twisty-turny the maps are. I've seen some guides just telling people to keep moving forward, because a lot of the loot doesn't really vary that much, even in the secret side areas. But I counter that by saying exploration means the chance to get more powerful loot. And again, with the upgraded tiers of treasure that you can get from your skill trees, it would actually make exploration even more vital. Because for all the powerful drops that you get from the mini-bosses, anything that you're not using, of course, you can just sell to the merchants. Now, the merchant's house actually has different NPCs that'll show up in random corners of the room. Some of them have beneficial effects to give you, others, not so much. No, the mushroom is not an NPC. Sorry, guys. Let's see. 3 to 6, 18 to 21. This ice hood appears to be better than the basic hood that I have. As much as 134 life sounds like a great deal, having the boost to resistances and summoning the Ice Guardian, which will allow me to essentially have free help, is just a better deal. I don't usually end up swapping out my devices all that much, simply because it's hard to remember to use them when you're constantly holding down L2 and R2. At higher levels, the King's Ring is actually one of the best rings that you can get in the game, simply because it attacks two directions at once and fires very quickly. Alright, sell everything. Well, actually, you know what? No, I'll swap out Arcane Missile for Poison Bomb, because the Geomancer primarily focuses on earth damage to begin with. Huh, I picked up an accessory. Nature damage and a life boost. Yeah, we'll go with that. If you're going to prioritize anything in this game as far as combat goes, the first thing you want to do is ensure that you just have as much life as possible. Because despite this game being about magic and wizards, being as tanky as possible is still the name of the game. Especially where there aren't that many ways to be able to get your health back once you've lost it. Now here we come upon one of these secret portals that I mentioned earlier. This one's a mob encounter, no boss fight. Kill all the mobs, get the treasure. We're about halfway through this level here. Most of the rest of the levels after the fishing village area are divided into two distinct areas, denoted by the change in the way the artwork looks. And as I said before, those merchants normally show up at the halfway points or by bosses. Interestingly, for all of the named boss encounters, there's a checkpoint room just before them, which is incredibly helpful, and ensures that you don't go into boss fights lacking in preparation. Again, we have an example here of the map just being kind of confusing. But it really isn't the worst thing. Oh, damn. I'm gonna die before I even get to the boss this time. enemies just derping around. Jeez. Oh yeah, you guys. So these guys are basically just like slot machines that will spawn randomly through the world. You hit the button, and you hope that you get something that's not red. Anything marked in red means a loss. This one gave us 500 gold. Further rolls every time you find these guys require the use of the blood that you're collecting from the enemies. It's up to your discretion whether you want to use it for gambling or actually putting forth towards your skill trees and other useful upgrades. Chat working here? I can't really tell. I occasionally see the chat pop-ups coming through. I see when people are joining, but I can't see specific names. So I apologize if I haven't said anything to you since you've come in. Any new people watching, welcome to the show. Remember to like, share, subscribe. At this point, I don't know if there's really all that much more that I can say as far as a review for the game goes. You know, I like it. It is a good game. Thoroughly enjoyable for what it is. And I say that only because I've just died so many times. But I mean, the twin stick shooter aspects of it, the, you know, fairly good mobility, amazing soundtrack, great art design. Like, this is a game that I can recommend to people that like Metroidvanias. You might not like roguelike games, but, again, you have that aspect of actually being able to permanently buff yourself over time with, you know, repeated runs and attempts through the game. So it's not as bad as, you know, other games that have permadeath mechanics. I mean, yeah, all in all, I would recommend this game to people that liked Metroid, Castlevania, Mega Man, a lot of those older side-scroller action platformers. If I can really afford anything else. Alright, now we're approaching the boss encounter for this area. We get our potion refill, which is unfortunate because I'm going to have to use one of my charges right off the bat. these named bosses look much more distinctly like Metroidvania bosses. I was commenting while playing this game earlier that this actually kind of reminds me of one of the trade encounters in Metroid. Now the named bosses usually have some sort of gimmick. In this case, destroying the polyps on this boss's back are what allow you to actually deal higher damage to it. I'm gonna die here. This particular boss has turrets all over its back that constantly fire at you while you're trying to deal damage. And they're not that easy to dodge. As you see, I just died there. You've got your tally and details of all the things that you managed to do with the character, and now we're back here. Select new characters, have different stats. I'm gonna pick the Pyromancer this time. There's also these NPCs at the beginning you can talk to, but I'm not entirely sure what point they serve, because they don't do anything useful. And here I can spend the blood that I drew from my enemies on new rings that will then drop in the game world. These over here are actually accessories, not rings. So you typically got 2 trees for each class. Something to do with accessories, and something to do with rings themselves. The first time you unlock any perk on the trees, those items automatically drop. Kind of a cool little buff that you can get there. I don't have enough of any other resources to be able to activate these trees. Yeah, have one more try here while I still have time for it. Hey, alright, brah. Have a good one. Yep. Nothing to write home about with these items, but it is what it is. I mentioned that each of the classes has different distinct abilities as well. But while I'm here, the dash for the Pyromancer leaves a firebomb that explodes, causing damage and the burning status effect, which is pretty cool. Basically, you dash, and it deals damage. The Generalist also has something of the same, but instead of a bomb, the Generalist leaves a poison cloud. And here we are, back at the beginning. Oh, man. got one of the big gates. This one should be a boss fight. Yep, boss fight. That means extra even star research. Most of these boss fights actually have extra treasure at the end, but I've never been able to get through this ring of spikes. Oh. Okay then. And of course there's nothing over here. Why did I bother? This is gonna kill me when I try to get back. I swear, I thought there was treasure back there. Really? The treasure is right there? I hate you. Torn hood. Somehow better than the holy cloak. Not letting me unequip. My buttons aren't working here. Kind of odd. Definitely something going on with my controller. Alright, well, there's definitely something weird going on with my controller here. Like I said, I would definitely recommend this game to anybody that likes Metroid, Castlevania, Mega Man. Very fun, great sound design, great art design. As for me, it looks like this is going to do it both for my time and my patience with whatever is going on with my controller. So, for everybody that stayed to the end of the video, please remember to like, comment down below, share this video with all your friends, and hit that bell notification icon so that you get notified whenever I put out a new video or live stream. And this has been Comet Smasher telling you to shoot for the stars.